The fear of losing your citizenship.
Citizenship, yeah.
It was so much that one Assam speaking Hindu, he was from a lower caste, so he's a senior citizen. He stood in the line for his document. Of course, he had document. He had to take out from the computer, from the NRC Seva Kendra. He didn't find document and he committed suicide. Yeah. That was the fear. And just imagine what the Bengali Muslims went through. Mm-hmm. There were numbers of suicide, Bengali Muslims, Bengali Hindus, and they gave up their life because they just feared that we will lose our citizenship and we will be thrown to a detention center.
My sisters tell me I want to wake up from this nightmare of having to prove constantly. And so these are educated people, yet they feel that they have been marginalized and now made vulnerable. So I can only imagine the illiterate, widowed woman staying in a little village disconnected from everything else, what that level of alienation and isolation that is, that sense of nobody cares.
Whoever is in this country belongs. And international borders that were created in 47, in 71, and consistently throughout history are arbitrary. Communities belong to the soil. We move around, we belong to each other. And just because an arbitrary line was put there by some politician or some British colonial officer cannot possibly become the basis of dividing us.
Salam, Namaste, Zindabad. We welcome you to one more episode of DAAGH DAAGH UJALA. This is the conversation series we have about the state of the Indian Republic. Today we are here to discuss a question: what will it take to bring peace back to Assam? I have three wonderful people to discuss this with. First, here you see Aman Wadud. Aman Wadud I've known for many years. I don't know if probably anybody who's done as much to stand in the courts in defense of people who have been struggling to prove their citizenship. He's a Fulbright scholar and just a very good human being. I welcome Yasmin Saikia. Yasmin is from Assam, but a very respected global scholar. She works on peace studies and teaches history in Arizona State University.
Thank
you. And thirdly, another very, very dear friend, Mohsin Alam Bhat. Mohsin is teaching in the University of London. He's teaching constitutional law and human rights. So friends, Assam is often forgotten and very little understood in the rest of India. What are the battles, what are the fractures, what are the solidarities? So I just wanted to start with the question: what is life like to be Muslim in Assam today? The Muslim population is 30% plus in Assam. It has its own divisions and fractures. The Chief Minister that we have today never tires in his kind of open hate speech targeting Bengali-speaking Muslims. So not just as a human rights lawyer and scholar of the kind that you are, Aman, but just as somebody who's been born and brought up in Assam and spent all your life here. What does it feel like to be a Muslim, a Bengali-speaking Muslim in Assam today?
4 or 5 days back, two brothers, Somaruddin and Abdul Jalil, they went for fishing in a river which is within the sanctuary, protected sanctuary, and they were killed by the police. The PTI and the Indian Express has quoted local police official on the condition of anonymity, saying that this is the word, that they tried to flee and we shot them in self-defense. Chief Minister also tweeted that the police shot at them in self-defense. The police sources themselves saying that they tried to flee. This is a matter of livelihood. They're not even accused of killing rhino, not even accused of anything else, but just fishing, apparently illegal fishing. That's how is it to be a Muslim in Assam today. And you can't see this in isolation. As you rightly say, Chief Minister, go through his Twitter feed. He posted his own video, that's 5 days back. And he says that these are people from the particular community. They are living in homes given by Modi. They are going to toilets which is being constructed by Modi's money. They are getting 1,200 rupees per month. Modi is giving them. And then they go and vote for the Congress. They don't vote for us. And he says that there was model code of conduct and that these people were creating violence in this area, in that area. Just because there was model code of conduct, we were not saying anything. And they are trying to capture Assam in the next 10 years. This is the same person who realized that the people of Assam is not going to vote for the BJP in overwhelming manner that they did in the last election. He was going to this Muslim area and seeking their vote. And when he realized that he did not get as much Muslim vote as required, this is what he is resorting to. That is how it is to be a Muslim. It feels to be a Muslim in Assam today, constantly under attack. None other than the head of the state. What do you expect from that police, tell me? Is he acting in isolation? He is not acting in isolation. He is acting because the venom that is spewed day in and day out by the Chief Minister is having effect on everyone. And they know that if we violate law, if we encounter them, then there is a person called the Chief Minister of Assam who is going to protect us. Right?
So from your story and from the response of the Chief Minister, you're saying many things. So you're being told that you're not really a legitimate rights-holding citizen, and what you're getting is a kind of benefit from the benevolent Prime Minister that we have.
Not even from the state. He says Modi's money.
Yeah, from the Prime Minister directly. But also that the police, that if you don't vote for the ruling government, you don't have even a right to this kind of benefits, and that the state police feels that it is entirely empowered to take any kind of action, and you'll be free. Yasmin, again...
There is a sense of absolute impunity if you kill Muslim.
So Yasmin, you also have are answering in both capacities. You're a scholar, but you also have grown up in Assam. But you are an Ohomia Muslim. And for people outside will not know how profound is the distinction that is being made between these two. One is considered indigenous and therefore having some rights to Assam. The other is seen as infiltrators. So how do you see the same question? What is it? What is life like to be Muslim in Assam today?
Thank you. Today is connected to the past, right? And beginning with stories that we are doing, I was reminded as we are talking, as Aman was talking, that my great-grandfather was invited by the Viceroy to represent the Assamese Muslims nearly more than 100 years ago. 100 years ago. He refused to go. He was a lawyer. He refused to go, saying, I do not represent Muslims, as there's nothing called an Assamese Muslim. I represent Assam. You cannot take the Muslim out of Assam. And by making me a hyphenated category, I refuse to occupy that space.
That's fantastic.
You know,
And he could be speaking today.
if he spoke, I don't know. As the question is saying today, if you ask this question, Assamese Muslim, it has become a label. It has become a category. In my great grandfather's generation, this was not a category. So there is, as Aman is pointing out, there is the politics of creating labels and asking people to inhabit that label, right? So today I have suddenly discovered as a scholar that there's a category called Khilonjia, indigenous Muslim, as you're talking about, where just few years ago the same chief minister also talked about this group as Mughal invaders. So you keep shifting according to the category that you're asked to now become.
I'm a little confused. Is the Homia Muslim a Mughal invader, an infiltrator, or
a Mughal invader? The infiltrator is a
invader.
Bengali speaking. The Ahomia speaking was originally a Mughal invader who was then cast into the Muslim politics of being a Muslim representative, not Ahomia, cannot represent the Assamese.
Right.
And now you have become a category called Assamese Muslim. What is this category of people who don't have any other home except Assam? So why cannot you just be an Assamese? Assamese speaking Muslim, but not Assamese Muslim or Khilonjia Muslim. So given that, when I grew up in Assam, during the Assam movement period, which actually then propelled me out of Assam because everything was closed, we never thought of ourselves as as a minority. We thought that since we are from the region called Eastern or Upper Assam, which is the heartland of Assam until Guwahati has taken over, you never thought of yourself as a minority. There was no concept of being something different from the rest who lived there.
You were Assamese?
You're just Assamese. But today you have something called Assamese Muslim. You have to ask my sisters who live in Assam what it is like to live as an Assamese Muslim. And Assamese Muslim is nothing different in this particular case from the Bengali speaking Muslim, or even the Hindustani speaking Muslims who also inhabit Assam, right? It has become a state of uncertainty and anxiety. And I think that is a shared condition. Perhaps the little difference here is that Ahomia speaking Muslims, with their names and their location in certain parts of Assam, keep claiming that we are from here. Now, how much is that claim being respected and accepted? That is a question that you have to ask the other group.
Because one of the fractures in Assam is and like in Manipur as well, is of indigeneity. Who belongs originally, and who came later, and who doesn't belong. Mohsin, you haven't grown up in Assam, yes, but you worked there for many years. Your students have been working there on the citizenship question. So what have you observed about Muslimness in Assam as a lived experience?
As you said, I did not grow up in Assam, but I in fact went there for the first time with you in 2018, and that was quite a defining moment in my life, because a lot of my research subsequently and a lot of my work was based on that. And if you remember, we went in with a team of people from the National Human Rights Commission, and you were the special officer or some other impressive sounding
Special monitor.
And but the significance of that trip, and hopefully it'll come up, was to go and visit the detention centers, and that might have been the last time that there was an official or quasi-official group that went. And there were many things I felt at that time. Now, I grew up in Delhi, and I'm from Kashmir, and one of the most striking things which I felt in the beginning was the problem of marginality and peripherality, which is that, how in India, areas which are peripheral to the center, either it's Kashmir or Ladakh, or it is Lakshadweep, or it is the northeastern states, particularly Assam or Arunachal, how are these places viewed as part or not part of India? And I could sense that this is a place which, and the people living here do feel that, quite rightly, that they have been forgotten by the mainland. The other thing, though, which also struck me was how these areas are also very complicated, because Assam is not a monolith. And what struck me in many ways was that the Muslims I interacted with and have since interacted with are in some sense a miniature version, just in terms of population, of how the Muslim experience more generally in India is evolving, which is minoritization and racialization, so treating these groups as smaller and as a threat.
Minoritization within a minority.
Exactly.
Is
Yeah.
more complicated, which is
Absolutely, because what we see in Assam is a little nationalism to a larger nationalism. So nationalisms tend to operate in those ways. And one of my most distinct memories was talking to younger Muslims and feeling exactly what Aman said, this sort of bottled up frustration and a sense of helplessness, that the structure of the political discourse of the state just doesn't give them a shot at participating. I just wanted to say another thing, which is that there are different ways in which this operates, and I'm sure we'll talk about it. I study the legal manifestations of that, NRC and foreigners tribunals. There's politics, which Aman talked about, which is how the chief minister is behaving or how BJP is entering into the state. But there's a deeper societal problem, which is that perhaps those older memories of an inclusive nationalism either are transforming into something exclusive, or they always had elements of exclusion which are now becoming more and more explicit and harming everybody.
Which brings me really to a core question that I'm asking here is, what has brought Assam to this place? What has caused these deep fractures of hate and division and suspicion and separation? Why have we come to this place? Aman, what do you?
Probably the way Assam is being studied now, talked about now, has never happened before. And I always had this grievance against quote-unquote mainland India, that they never cared for us, one. Two, our representative, I won't call leadership, our elected representative never spoke about these issues. Constantly it was being said that the people who migrated from present-day Bangladesh, starting with Bengal and then East Bengal, that they are illegal migrants. There was no counter argument from the civil society, from the political class. So it became very acceptable to brand Bengali Muslims as illegal migrants, to kill them with absolute impunity. There will be no one to defend you. So it's just a one-way traffic, that you abuse Muslim, you kill Muslims, no one will be punished, no one will be held accountable. Probably this silence from all group of people, including from the community, I think has brought us to this.
Is the problem fundamentally societal, or is it something that has been spurred artificially by political interests? Or is there some deeper crisis of division within society itself?
Well, I believe that I think it's both. I mean, it's both. See, certain areas of Assam now, as they call it, Muslim-dominated areas, have always had political representation. Dhubri, I think always had a Muslim MP. Barpeta, except once or twice, always had a Muslim MP. Highest, I think, 34 member of Legislative Assembly we had, which will now, after delimitation, would be brought down around 20. So, of course, I blame people from mainland India that they never stood up for us. But then I also, if you see it critically, I mean, how can we not blame ourselves? I mean, our leader, I'm not blaming the people, but our representative. When I started working in 2013, my biggest challenge was to report these cases, because there was no one who knew that detention center in Assam. So much that Modi even lied that Assam mein to detention center hai hi nahi. People had to fact check him. 2013, I had to literally request journalists that this is a story, this is called detention center, and there is a person called Moinal Mullah who is detained in detention center. We need to report this. This is in 2014, 2015. There was absolutely no imprint on internet or anywhere. Whenever you talk about Assam, it was a given fact that Assam is infested with illegal migrants. Supreme Court also accepted that narrative. In fact, it validated. It is because of the Sarbandha Sonowal judgment that the way Mr. S.K. Sinha's report, it's a rabid communal report that was endorsed by the Supreme Court without any counter argument, neither from, hardly any jurist or any lawyer spoke about this. So it became an acceptable narrative that there are, Assam is infested with illegal migrants. And I am, like I said, I blame everyone for this. Our elected representative, civil society groups, and of course people from outside India. Because when the CAA happened in 2019, the protest started. It made me feel like you are just apprehending that we will be detained. And then you came to the street. Very well. This was, one of the defining moments of 21st century. But where were you when we were being detained?
Yes, absolutely.
When we were detained, where we were dying in detention center. When it came to you, I don't think I should blame, but then you stood up for yourself. But you never stood up for us.
So, Yasmin, the angst and the anguish that Aman is speaking about, he's focused a lot on the rest of us, in the rest of India, and how the pain, even say of the NRC process, and that's a very fine example that while the NRC process was unfolding with all its injustices in Assam, the rest of India didn't care. But when it seemed that it is going to come to affect the lives of people in the rest of India, did people stand up? So he's talking about how Assam is so marginal to your sense of belonging to this country for people in the rest of the country. I wanted to request you to look more deeply within. What has happened within Assamese history, over the centuries and in more recent times that has brought it to this point of fracture?
I think it's a really, Harshmanji, very good question actually, because when we only focus on the present, we cannot plan a future, right? So we really need to think in depth and excavate the past as much as we can. Now in Assam, from my readings that I've been spending almost a lifetime now thinking about the history of Assam, going back to the Burunjis, which were the chronicles of Assam, we do not have any definite community called Assamese. There was never this term called Assamese that was used. So that itself, the construction of Assamese and then making it connect to the mainland India through Hinduism was itself a challenge. Today the Muslims are also facing the same challenge, but this in the early 20th century, late 19th, early 20th century, the Assamese Hindus were also facing this challenge from the rest of India, that they were not considered part of the Hindu world, right? Particularly Aryabharta and all of that. So they had to really construct the story. In constructing the story that took over around 40, 50 years of construction, you started then giving a form to something called a Hindu community in Assam, which had the whole spectrum from the Adivasi animist communities all the way to Brahmanical Hinduism in Assam. And even today it continues. So to tie those people together has been a political move.
And immigrants.
That's what I'm saying, the Adivasis, right? All the way you had to tie it, and it continues. And of course, some of them also converted to other religions because they did not feel included. So the Assamese Hindus have been working on this for a long time, but they have also had a very strong superiority complex vis-a-vis, say, the Adivasis and other groups who have been considered lower than the Assamese, whereas the Assamese group is actually a very small group, really speaking. And then you have the Muslim, now the question, right? So when did these fractures and fissures
and within the Muslim, the indigenous
and the Bengali, and then don't forget we have something called the Muslims from Silchar, who are called Sylheti Muslims, who are also sometimes Bengali speaking and can be Assamese speaking. They also have a very different history. Then we have this people called the Deshi Muslims, who are from the Gwalpara region, who were part of the originally the Mughal Suba of Assam. right? Then we have something called the Moria Muslims, okay, who are also very, very old Muslim settlers who came even before the Mughals, okay, this is from the Sultanate period. And then you have the Hindustani Muslims who had come during colonialism, they are called the Jolhas. Then you have the Oghamiya Muslim. So these are the separations that in a way, politics has made. People didn't talk in these terms before. Now, the fractures and the fissures that you're talking about within the Muslim community is also very old. Okay, you may give them the labels right now. It's a spatial divide also. Lower and upper Assam, eastern and western Assam, as they're called. Means of communication, transportation, those are not very good, right? So people from, say, upper Assam would never even interact with people, Hindus or Muslims, from people from lower Assam. And the divisions became even more acute during the Assam movement, where suddenly you had Hindu and Muslim, you had upper Assam Muslim versus lower Assam Muslim, or Bengali speaking, non-Bengali speaking, and those have now become very entrenched boundaries.
Yeah, so Yasmin, just to press the point a little further, separation, historical separation, geographical separation of these many communities, I understand. Where did this separation convert into hate? At which point? Was it during the Assam movement?
Assam movement, as I said, I was growing up then. Muslims started talking a little in fearful tones that there is a beginning level of segregation happening. But there were a lot of Muslims who are also part of the Assam movement. So,
but the Nelly massacre happened, I think that might...
People were not paying, honestly, what Aman is saying, people were not paying a great deal of attention even then. Okay, even Oghamiya Muslims felt, okay, this didn't happen here, this happened in Nelly. They felt for the loss, they felt for the destitution, but they didn't have the language or the interaction, that intimacy was not there for them to feel that I need to do something, right? And they really believed that this government is going to look out, protect the people. So lack of interaction, relationship building, societal, as you're saying, the social building had not taken place. So politics could come and penetrate and make the separation very clear. Between the Assam movement and the rise, there was a small period, at least in Upper Assam, during the United Liberation Front of Assam, the Ulfa movement, where people thought they were again regaining a sense of defiance against the state and were going to do something. Hindu, Muslim, everybody's going to come together. That moment also passed because it became so violent. I think that it's what people condemned was a violence, right? And I think after that, after the Ulfa thing got sold out into Sulfa, the surrendered Ulfa, that was a moment when I think penetration of divisions became very acute. But as a historian, I have been studying this. This is not new. In 1937, when there was a major flood in Upper Assam and an earthquake, and supposedly the Brahmaputra had also shifted a little the course, the only relief work was done by the RSS. So they have been there for so long. It's a patient, slow work that has been going on, that today now what you see is the manifestation of a long period of work in which government of various officials, he's talking to police today, but even then the police were involved in the 80s, giving information that these are illegal and creating stories.
So maybe there has been a systematic sort of creation of a sense of separation, hate, grievance and hate with organizations like the RSS working just below the surface. Mohsin, let's really come into the period of prolonged trauma in recent times to which you made reference, and we went together for the first time into the detention centers and saw, firsthand how intense was the suffering of the people there. I want to talk a little bit about the NRC CAA process from a legal perspective, and particularly in the light of two imminent dangers. One is the idea of is is in the third term of Modi, are we going to have a national NRC? And what is that going to mean? And second, and there I'd request Yasmin and Aman to also come in. The danger of a renewed NRC in Assam itself. So if you could take the India story, you both could take the Assam story, both about what happened, what was the suffering of the people, but also what does the future look like?
Yes. Obviously, it's a really important question, and it has international interest as well, right? Because Assam has been in the news primarily because of citizenship law. And Aman also talked about the question of detention, and the international community has been most interested in Assam. Suddenly, Assam is in the world map. But before sort of commenting on the legal issues, I think going back to Yasmin's point, that in many ways, what we saw with citizenship policy in Assam was a symptom rather than anything else. So, for instance, more recently, the paranoia around the foreigner is just a way of sort of stigmatizing minorities who are targeted in other ways. We have seen demolitions in Assam without legal basis. We have seen people being killed on the ground that they are in forests, and environment protection has to be there, child marriage and other sort of legal regulations. So what we see in citizenship and exclusion, either in form of detention, foreigners, tribunals and NRC, first we need to accept it is not emerging out of bona fide claims that there are quote-unquote foreigners in Assam. It is emerging from a deeper stigmatizing politics, and including sort of social fissures in Assam. And the reason we need to underline this is because constantly we are told we need all these policies like NRC because there are so many foreigners in Assam. But the fact is, there are no numbers to prove it. And what we see today, Harsh, and I know I'm starting the other way around, that when the NRC came out, quote-unquote final NRC, almost immediately the response among the BJP and other Assamese nationalist groups was that this NRC has to be rejected because these numbers are too low. But initially we were told we need this NRC in order to identify who's a foreigner and who's not. Now this is a big facade because it just shows that this is not a bona fide legal way of identifying who's a foreigner, who's not. And here let's assume for the time being that's a legitimate way of doing it. But this was nothing but a way of constantly stigmatizing minorities, particularly Mia communities.
I just want to underline, and this is for the audience, a very strange thing happened in the NRC process. And I think from a legal perspective, I mean, suppose there is a robbery in a settlement. Normally, the police will have to collect evidence against who they suspect for a crime and stuff. Instead, what they say is that we assume everybody is the robber, and now you have to prove you weren't the robber. What would that do? And that's precisely here. So the state says we assume everybody is a foreigner and illegal. Now you have to prove with documents that if I would not be my family is a partition family. I just wouldn't be able to produce documents to prove my Indian citizenship.
And I think the important thing also is to why did that happen? That happened over decades and decades of creating paranoia among the Assamese public.
No, but don't forget, 1951 there was an NRC. Yeah.
But the 1951 NRC is a complicated legal document.
Yeah,
It came out of the census.
But it was based on this.
It was not scrutiny, I mean.
Not based on legacy document, they just came and did a census.
No, it was a part of the census report.
Census.
And it was also incomplete.
Yeah,
And
it
that
was
did
incomplete.
not change the burden of proof. And
No.
The critical thing was the burden of proof.
That you are.
No, de facto, if your name is there in the census, it's there in the NRC.
Yeah.
And like Mohsin has said that it was not because in low-lying areas because there are a lot of wetlands. So the enumerator didn't even go there. So it's a complete incomplete document. It's not a complete document.
And in fact, I think by the time you hit late 1990s, there is this sort of complete consensus among Indian elites, including in Delhi, that Assam is suffering from a foreigners' crisis. So what we see in 2005 with the Supreme Court Sonawal case, for instance, and you just compare the surrounding parliamentary debates, there is nobody saying anything opposite. There's no difference between what L.K. Advani is saying as the Home Minister and what the opposition is saying, because there is somehow this complete agreement that If you're talking about Assam, there are Bangladeshis there. So this mythology was created without any numbers, and increasing evidence shows that even the papers that were tabled in Parliament were not backed by proper investigation.
Just to take that forward, Mr. Sri Prakash Jaiswal, he was a MOS during the Congress regime in 2005. He made a categorical statement before the Parliament. There are 50 lakhs illegal migrants in Assam, and then he withdrew it. He withdrew saying
But
that it was not.
Another thing, the papers that were tabled by the minister were then used by the Supreme Court.
It was quoted there
case
without the rejection,
and these papers were withdrawn. So basically, what we see is this circularity. That numbers are quoted, but they're discredited.
Selective
Another
circularity.
document then quotes that. So I think this is a pure case study of how facts are manufactured, which, by the way, is exactly the script which BJP uses in the rest of the country. How did sort of this whole mythology around love jihad come up? Those numbers were manufactured. So we see sort of these political fictions constantly being generated. Now, coming now to your question of the NRC. Once this paranoia is created and there is complete elite consensus, then obviously the burden of proof will be reversed. Because everybody is under suspicion, provided that they have the right kind of names. One example of that is during the NRC process, suddenly this exception called the original inhabitants, or OI, was created, which was never properly defined, which was also illegal. It had no legal backing. But it was accepted, and obviously when people were running the NRC and deciding who was a citizen, who was not, at the back of their minds was this political and social conception that if you're from the majority, you are Assamese. If you're not, or you have a Bengali sounding name, or you're from a Mia community, then you're not an Assamese person.
No,
and that, I think, defined the whole process.
But it's not simply the anxiety and not to prove that you're not from Assam was concern only of the Mia community. I know people from Jorhat and Sipsagar who always never had questioned their place in Assam, were suddenly really very panic-stricken. And then, in fact, family members whose name never showed up, who had served in the Indian army. Right? So it became, I think, at some point, it was, NRC is not simply a documentation, it's an internalization of feeling like a minority, always being suspected.
A minority who doesn't belong.
Suspect minority.
The fear was so much, the fear of losing your citizenship.
Yeah.
It was so much that one Assamese speaking Hindu, he was from a lower caste, so he is a senior citizen. He stood in the line for his document. Of course, he had document. He had to take out from the computer, from the NRC Seva Kendra. He didn't find document and he committed suicide. That was the fear. And just imagine what the Bengali Muslims went through. There were numbers of suicide. Bengali Muslims, Bengali Hindus, and they gave up their life because they just feared that we will lose our citizenship and we will be thrown to a detention center.
And be thrown out to a country we don't know. Yeah. This is our home.
Yeah. And can I just add another thing? Because the important thing which Aman said, which was about Shahin Bagh protests and other things, right? It's a very legitimate thing for somebody from Assam, particularly from your community or Bengali speaking community, to say, well, the rest of the country, including Muslims, didn't stand up. But there was absolute silence on the issue, and there was no transparency. And the most remarkable thing was that when Shahin Bagh protests started, the stories from Assam had started trickling in. So a major reason why people were on the streets was because they read the detention center stories, finally. And it took years and years. People like Aman, you writing about it and documenting it really helped. So
people are not paying attention. I'm sitting in America and I knew about the detention centers in 2016. So what Aman has been talking about, that people have never paid attention to what is happening in the Northeast and Muslims in Assam, comes from a kind of an ignorance that's a cultivated ignorance. We don't need to know about it.
It is a conscious, a conscious erasure. Yeah. It's not simply that it happened.
There's no information.
That it happened to do.
Can I just add something? Like I said that, in Shahin Bagh, everyone protested. Unlike in the rest of the India, when the NRC was ordered by the Supreme Court, this December 17, 2014 order, in Assam, the Muslim community, they accepted it. They supported the entire process. Right. Why? Because they just wanted a closure. They wanted to get rid of this stigma of being seen as a foreigner in your own motherland. And then through these 4 years of process, the kind of harassment, the kind of fear people went through, with the belief that this is a Supreme Court monitored process, and once it is completed, this stigma will be gone, and we will not be accused and abused of being illegal migrants again. And as Mohsin Bhai has said, that after the NRC list was out, that this ASU, the BJP government, and I will quote the word they use, they say, we are not happy with this number. The current chief minister who was the cabinet minister then, he said people who are laughing now will cry when Modi and Amit Shah will bring another NRC. We are feeling betrayed now. We took part in the process, getting humiliated, collecting all those documents, traveled hundreds of kilometers, because we believe that the Supreme Court is monitoring the process, and this is the final round of proving our nationality, and this is what we were there.
So just catching on to this moment, the NDA is back in power. It continues to say that they are going to go ahead with the NRC process, and I'll come to Mohsin shortly in terms of what will happen. What does this mean for the rest of India? But within Assam, if both of you could reflect on, if after all of this, the NRC is reopened with the CEA, what will it mean for the Assamese people? What do you see?
The Assamese on the whole, about Muslims.
For all our Assamese people and for particular communities which will be targeted.
So when the NRC was finalized, the final list came out. So like we said that there was an overwhelming rejections by the BJP, by the ASU and like-minded organization. So they slowly and steadily they tried to discredit the NRC process by saying that this is faulty. And then when Himanta Biswa Sarma became the chief minister, the very next day, he filed an affidavit before the Supreme Court saying that he wanted complete re-verification of the NRC. So re-verification means opening up the NRC again. And if they are not happy with that number, the 1.9 million number, so of course they want to scale up that number. And now that CA has come, so they will try and target just one community.
Yes.
Look, what happened in Assam in the last few years, the government tried to start it in the rest of the country. I think if, God forbid, if that happens, that is my worst nightmare. If they re-verify this government going by what they have been saying, that when Modi Shah NRC comes, everyone will have to cry, and the way he has been talking of revenge in the last speech before 5 days. So God forbid if that happens, I can't imagine the kind of the scaling up that they will do, and to say, I'll fail in my duty if I don't say this. The number during the Assam movement, there were like 2 crores people used to say there are 2 crores illegal migrants in Assam, and a lot of people believed it when the entire population of Northeast was not 2 crore. 7 million, 5 million, Indrajit Gupta, Sri Prakash Jaiswal, Supreme Court endorsed those statements. All these statements were brought, and there was an overwhelming impression that there are Assamese infested with illegal migrants, and that is why everyone had to prove their citizenship in Assam. What is the number? 1.9 million, and all these are not Muslims.
And only about 500,000
probably less than that.
Yes,
Probably less than that. And people who are excluded from the NRC are not necessarily illegal migrants, like my cousins. In their household there are 7 members. Uncle, auntie, 2 of their children are in the NRC, 3 are not there. So this is a phenomenon. Entire family is in the NRC, the children is out or the woman is out, because this entire process is gendered. There is an inherent gender bias, because women get married before 18 years of age and they can't prove their lineage with the voter list or the document.
And they haven't been to school, so they don't have...
Yeah, exactly. So now if they scale it up, now if they re-verify the NRC, like I say, I'm unable to comprehend that what will happen independent of the Supreme Court.
Yasmin?
I think the same thing, but Aman is saying I totally connect to that kind of anguish and that fear. But it is, to me, these kind of, constant need for people to prove that they belong somewhere. is you can adopt different means. NRC, CA, these are state means now. In the past, there were other kinds of doing this. I think this is, I see it as a state of terror in which people just want to wake. My sisters tell me, I want to wake up from this nightmare of having to prove constantly. And so these are educated people.
And there seems no end to that.
No end to that. Educated people constantly involved in contributing and in doing service in Assam, right? Yet they feel that they are have been marginalized and now made vulnerable. So I can only imagine the illiterate, widowed woman staying in a little village, disconnected from everything else, what that level of alienation and isolation that is, that sense of nobody cares. And that nobody cares can be highly debilitating, right? And I think that is something we need to understand what a Muslim is feeling in Assam. The Muslims always felt like they were not part of the rest of India's Muslims. Our habits, our language, our food, everything is different.
But the threat of being pushed, because of the detention center as a symbolic place where you can end up.
No, as Ahmadiyya Muslims cannot even imagine a detention center because they have not moved from anywhere for the last 600 years. Say. So there is no concept that we can, like what you talk partition, as you said, partition movement, right? I had done research with people who were part of the Muslim League in the 1920s and 30s. But when it came to partition, and when I asked them, why did you not go across, even to East Pakistan or East Bengal? They said, why will we leave home? Our ancestors are buried here, right? So for going to detention camp is not even a thought that will enter. For them, it is even being removed from the sense that they belong is itself a dislocation that they cannot understand.
Mohsin, very briefly, because I want to come back to Assam, but just if with this government, it actually goes ahead with the idea of a nationwide NRC, with the CA backing up other communities except the Muslim community, if they are undocumented, what kind of future, what does it mean for India's future?
It goes without saying, it's an absolute disaster. I think the important thing is what Yasmin said, which is that the character of the NRC is to constantly keep people on their toes, and the minorities constantly feel that they can be attacked arbitrarily.
Yeah.
The whole structure...
Not just on their toes, but fearful, always fearful.
Absolutely, yeah, that would be a better way of putting it. And the whole legal structure of the NRC with the National Population Register, and then arbitrary low-level officials deciding how a certain person would be included or excluded from the population register, and then the finalization of the National Register of Citizens is basically built around absolute administrative fiat, absolute administrative arbitrariness. And only those people will be targeted here in this process who are poor, who are marginalized, who are minorities, who are Muslims in particular, who have the wrong name, who live in the wrong neighborhood. And there is no way out of it. But just wanted to add another thing specifically about Assam itself. The Chief Minister Hemant Biswa Sharma said when the CA rules were notified, and the Supreme Court still hasn't decided the case, and there was a demand that it should be stayed, which they didn't do it. But anyway, CA rules were notified, and Hemant said that I will resign if a single person is giving citizenship under CA who had not already applied for the NRC. Now, I want us to just hold on to that particular idea. What is he saying? He's saying that all those people who had applied, claiming that they are Indian citizens, only those people now will be forced to say that they are foreigners under CA. This is the joke and the facade which this government has introduced in the form of citizenship policy. And I want us to sort of consider what does it mean for that person who knows he's Indian and had applied for the NRC and struggled so much.
And to say that I can now be only Indian if I say I was a foreigner.
If I lie now and say that I'm not. And who's this person? Not a Muslim. So these people have absolutely no regard even for the emotions or the national belonging of Hindus. Forget about Muslims. And that is what what this country has to reckon with and really see is that the kind of citizenship law politics and society we want to live in, where it's not just Muslims who are being targeted, but the very notion of Indian belonging is being fundamentally eroded.
So, friends, bringing our discussion to close, it's been a somber discussion, and I think rightly so. When I have images of Assam, I was just thinking while we were speaking. Some images will remain with me all my life. The homes we visited where, when she comes back, finds that her husband is still in a detention center, they're not being able to produce any documents. Their mother says, okay, and they go out and they come back and found the mother has hung herself. And the father is in the detention center, the mother has hung herself, the children are having to face a future. I think of the vision, what I saw inside the detention centers. I saw this jail within a jail where women were kept in a space a little larger than this for the last 7-8 years, separated from their husbands, from their children. The kind of anguish that one saw there. I also keep thinking of the image of that photographer who is accompanying this anti-encroachment process, where this man, just in anguish because his house is broken out, comes and he's shot dead, and the photographer jumps on him, repeatedly
On a dead body.
On a dead body with hate. We're seeing a very, very troubled land. I want us to just say we have to find hope. Where do we see our hope? Do we see our hope in a revived Congress, in the political forum? Do we see our hope in a belated sense of solidarity which other communities within Assam will they find that sense of solidarity now? Where do we see hope for peace for the people of Assam? That's my last question. And
It's a very difficult question. I think I would hope to hear from the other two friends about whether possibility of a dialogue among communities is possible. But if I may be permitted to propose, I know it feels really distant possibility, but increasingly...
also hope from the courts.
Yeah, well, I have no hopes from the courts. I do have hope from the Indian people and their fundamental wisdom and decency. I still feel that is the case. And there's a growing feeling in certain quarters, and Bengal is a very interesting place, West Bengal, where there's this growing demand for what they call unconditional citizenship. Now, leaving aside the phraseology there, but the idea there is that whoever is in this country belongs. And international borders that were created in 47, in 71, and consistently throughout history are arbitrary. Communities belong to the soil. We move around, we belong to each other. And just because an arbitrary line was put there by some politician or some British colonial officer cannot possibly become the basis of dividing us. And there's a growing demand, and I feel it grows further, that everybody who's in this country has a right to belong here and is a citizen. How does that shape up as a political understanding among communities is obviously a challenge, but I think we do have a model which has some traction on the ground.
That's a lovely sentiment, and I think there's no other way. There's no other way for the Indian people except to find our capacities to accept that everybody who lives in this land belongs to it, with no conditionalities. Yasmin, for Assam, where would you see hope?
The hope and peace, they're interrelated,
Yes.
right?
Hope for peace.
Hope for peace and peace. Hope creates peace.
Right.
When you are despairing, you cannot have peace.
So
right?
hope is a public duty. And
It's a public duty. And it is personal. It's a personal well-being. You also have to take care of yourself, right? You cannot get to a point. Now, I agree with what Mohsin has said, that there is an underlying and fundamental ethics in India that people at the end of the day want to live in harmony. It's a value that is shared among the multiple communities. In Assam, that is even more prominent, partly because of this isolationism that Assam had suffered, because West mainland India was not interested, nor Assam was very interested in mainland India. They were knit together in India politically, but psychologically and emotionally, Assam was, very contained. And that contained world was able to function because there was a tapestry woven together by the people. Right? And that tapestry we need to talk about it more. The tapestry needs to be brought back. We need to talk about these relationships. If politics cannot build relationships, it can sometimes promote it maybe through certain kinds of projects, but it's a people's project. And we need to sort of bring multiple generations of people together. Who will do it? That is the bigger question, right?
So is it going to come from society? Or is it going to come from politics?
I don't think politics. In Assam particularly, as I said, even Ulfar survived because they were our boys. Okay, people could relate to them. They didn't like their violence, but they knew, oh, you're the grandson of so-and-so, you are the this. Now the same thing, you said Congress. What does the Congress stand for? Whose face are we going to show in Assam to say, whether it's today Himanta Biswa, why is he so successful? Not because he is steeped into RSS politics like those others who had come. He was our boy who started with ASU, who did Ulfa, who did Congress, and he's now BJP. Okay? Himanta Biswa does not come from the ranks of BJP and RSS. So you do need in Assam a political face. It can be any label. He can be BJP and still win, which was not the story in Assam, right? So you still need a face that can relate to people. And that story, that person carries the story of relationship. It's woven into the society, and you have to now reweave this. How is it going to happen? I see the younger generation.
We have to still find that person.
Yeah, not person. Maybe it's a community. Yeah. It's a group of people. It's a generation. Maybe it's a younger generation. What do they want? We need to listen to them. And I'm sorry that today we do not actually have a person who is 18 or 20 years old and can tell us, this is the Assam we want to inherit. This is the India we want to inherit. Help us make it. We have to listen to young people. And they are very good with technology. I think technology can be a great way of storytelling, right? And humanizing relationships. I think we have to humanize it. Otherwise, politics cannot do that work.
See, Aman is certainly that kind of young person who has to tell us what kind of Assam he hopes for,
not
and how he'll get there.
Yeah, not 20, yeah.
My most favorite line.
We won't talk about his age.
my most favorite line, probably the most practical line. One sentence, if you say, is that from the preamble: fraternity assuring dignity of individual. Because there is no fraternity, the dignity is at stake.
Absolutely. And unity. I mean, that's the same.
Yeah, unity and integrity of the nation. In the center of the debate is the dignity of the people of Assam, and particularly people who migrated 100, 150 years back, the Bengali Muslim community. I definitely have hope if history is written about the downfall of Himanta, which I hope there will be a one blessed day. That will start from the day he said that I will clean Mias from the street of Guwahati. Mm-hmm. I have been working with the civil societies in Assam from the last 1.5 years, and I have seen the kind of anger in everyone, not just Muslims. Of course, everyone outraged, Muslims outraged more than. But then the Assamese Hindu community, they say, not in my name.
Yes.
You talk to everyone in private, they say, why? I mean, they are vegetable sellers, they are doing all the hard work. Why do you have to clean them from the street? This time, if in the Upper Assam, in all other places, Congress received lots of votes, although they end up winning just 3 seats, but Congress did receive more votes than last time. And in the heart of it is this, the attempt of this BJP government trying to create disharmony, that we will do this, we will do that. and always hating one community, segregating one community. So I definitely have hope, but I think the political class also has responsibility along with the civil society groups to sort of burst this myth, because now we have figures in our hand. Now there is an NRC, although through the entire process, even if the NRC has not been gazetted by the government authorities, but after the NRC list was out, there were number of people increasing saying that all these years you have been lying, saying that there are 5 million, 7 million illegal migrants. You did. Sonowal's government executed this. BJP government executed the NRC under the monitoring of the Supreme Court, and you found out 1.9 million people. After NRC, the discourse changed, the vocabulary changed. Now you won't see the BJP or the like-minded political parties always using the word Bideshi or infiltrators. Now they are, Himanta says Bangladeshi origin Muslims or Mia Muslims, but they don't continue the way they used to say illegal migrants. That word has is slowly going away from the vocabulary. So I definitely see hope, but it is important to make everyone believe that all this while the lie that has been peddled that Assam is infested with illegal migrant was wrong. It is wrong, and that the kind of the threat perception he is building, the way Chief Minister said 5 days back, that in 10 years these people will occupy Assam. Delimitation happened. It was a gerrymandering process. They have stuffed Muslims into one constituency, Hindus into one constituency. Like now, in more than 90 constituencies, Hindu majority. So how are these people trying to occupy Assam? So there has to be someone who should continuously every day counter this liar called Himanta Biswa Sarma. He is lying every day, and that should come from the political class. The political class should make a daily routine that every time he peddles lies, someone should come and say he is lying. This is where he is lying, and should expose his hatred, expose his lies.
Do we have hope that silence will be broken?
See, I definitely have, I'm a great believer in the idea of fraternity, and I like ma'am has said that people at the end of the day, people what they want is harmony. People want to live in harmony. The way this government, BJP government led by Mr. Himanta Biswa Sarma, is trying to create this harmony, and I believe that eventually people will reject his hatred, the politics of hatred, and will make an attempt to be in harmony. But you need to consider that he's trying to create disharmony every day. Yeah. There has to be equal force to create harmony. Why do you always give it to the people that they should come forward? Then why are the leadership for?
I think one thing, say the older leadership will not do that work, because they were part, even I'm talking the Muslim community, right? The older leadership in the Muslim community at the ASU time were part of the ASU movement, the Muslim. They are now sort of they would prefer to be this indigenous Muslim community who are given a promise of benefits and never actually shown the benefits, right? So they are not going to go and make this fact-checking thing that you're talking about, Aman. It has to come from a completely different, I think, a different group of people who have no investment in getting some benefits that they have been promised. They have hope that we will do better and we will create a better society.
And I think that, and let's really end with that. I think what I'm hearing from Aman is two things. One is there should be outrage.
But when people are so fearful, what can they be outraged about?
So outrage has to expand to a degree where it overcomes our fear. You see, the outrage of the kind of statements that Chief Minister Assam makes on a daily basis. I filed FIRs against him for hate speech.
No, but okay. Privately, people are feeling, Harsh Mandarji. When does a private become public?
So that's what it is. When it will become public is when the outrage grows. Sadly, Himanta Biswa Sarma is not using the word infiltrator, but the Prime Minister is. Correct. And when he spoke about Muslims in his election speeches, the two big crimes that they have is one is that they have large families, and the other is that they're infiltrators. So that myth and that infiltrator is a very worrying word to say, because when you talk about a national NRC, just round the corner. I think the hope has to lie, has to be built on precisely the pledge of fraternity that our friend Aman spoke about. In the end, what is fraternity? Fraternity is the idea that we might be of different faiths.
But as a woman, I have a problem with the term fraternity.
Yeah, okay. So there's
So-
there's a Hindi word which the constitution uses, which is bandhuta.
Bandhuta is taken.
Which is
Dosti.
lovely,
Yes.
which is a lovely word.
Yeah.
बंधुता means कि हम एक दूसरे से बंधे हुए हैं, हमारे मजहब अलग हो सकते हैं, हमारी बोलचाल अलग हो सकती है, our genders can be different, our beliefs can be different, but we are bound to and with each other. It is when it's in our capacity to locate our own capacities to care and love, despite all our differences. We'll have to find that space, and young people will have to help us find their way, because our generation lost the moment where this country had to be built finally on fraternity. And I think more than anything else, we need to relocate our capacities for fraternity.
Yeah, this is maybe probably not for the audience that you have, but just conversation that you're using the Hindi term. In Assam, there are certain terms that will really work locally, okay? One is a concept called moram, kindness, love, fraternity. Moram is, people relate to that term a lot, okay, moram. It's a different kind of love. And other thing is people keep using the word hinka, hincha. Hinka in Assam means envy, revenge. It's a whole plethora. So they don't like hinka, they like moram. How do you develop those concepts and actually not make them into resources that people can start relating to that?
So I think that's lovely as well. Our capacities for love, finally, radical love is what we need to increase our capacities for. So thank you, friends in Zindabad.
Thank you so much for this conversation.
ये दाग दाग उजाला ये शब गजीदा सहर, वो इंतजार था जिसका, ये वो सहर तो नहीं।